And so on a personal level, if they don't feel that we're experts in our field, it's very hard for them to build that trust.
So this week we have Ahmad Bader, Sales and Transformation Advisor, a very wonderful individual. Ahmed has supported leaders from diverse industries in the last 20 years in their sales and customer service transformational journey, from an intent to a sustainable impact. Ahmed and I collaborated on many projects on helping customers develop and adopt a customer-centric approach. That's typically been our focus all the time. Ahmed worked in the US for more than a decade, and he's now leading the consulting efforts across industry sectors and works with clients in the region. Welcome, Ahmed, and such a pleasure to have you in our sales clinic. And thanks so much for your time.
You're very welcome. It's nice to be here with you, Lena.
Thank you so much. So like we discussed, Ahmed, today's topic is on building trust. This is something which I constantly hear from a lot of not only sales leaders, but different, different verticals, different organizations, that how do I build trust and what is the definition of building trust, because that becomes the fundamental of any engagement. So, and with so much happening, right, there's so much information overload and everything seems to be true and not so true. So, so my first question to start would be, how do you build trust in today's time with your customers?
Well, building trust, I think, in its core is a mindset, especially for salespeople. And what I mean by that is that as a salesperson, you're aware that it's very important for me to gain trust of the person or the persons that I'm just about to meet and work with. We're all human beings, and decisions, as you know, do not make organizations do not make decisions. It's the people that work in an organization that make decisions.
Right.
To try to help somebody make a decision when they're comfortable with you is just a mindset. If you're going in there as a salesperson thinking that I am going to convince them, I am going to show them that my product or my service is the best. We've done all the research. We have all the right people. We have all the products stocked up in a warehouse and ready to go. We've got everything taken care of. You're simply trying to push a product. It's very hard for somebody to feel safe as they're sitting in a meeting with you, because they feel, and by the way, human beings, we're all smart, we're all cognitive, we feel it right away. Right. We sense it right away. It's the sixth sense. Even a child knows if somebody around him or her likes them or not. Yes. And so people will get that sense immediately that this person is just trying to push their product. They have their own agenda. If you want to build trust, you really want to go in with a completely different mindset. Right. The purpose of my meeting is to see if and how I can help the person in front of me.
Right.
And guess what? If you can help them, if you can find a way to help them, genuinely help them, then you definitely will, without knowing, gain their trust. Once they feel that they are part of your agenda, that you're focused on them, you will start gaining their trust. So I think this is the biggest one for salespeople to check at the door. What is the purpose of me walking in to see this person? What's the purpose of this meeting? Yeah. If it's anything along the lines of helping the people at the meeting, you will definitely just improve your chances of gaining their trust. Right. I'm not here to tell you that everybody can gain everybody's trust. Yeah. Right. Yeah. True. You can have all the genuine feelings. You can have all the correct intent, so on and so forth. But for a reason outside of your control, the person in front of you is not going to trust you because it's the bad timing, it's the bad setup, it's the wrong introductions, the timing is not correct, or because they have something else on their mind and they cannot focus with you on the topic you want to discuss. These are all things that do impact I think at the core, it's a mindset.
Right. So I like the word you used, making them feel safe in the sense that, already when it is a sales profile, already there's a mindset from the customer side, a perception that here you are to come and tell me what you've got, rather than understanding what is that I can benefit out of, so safe means that, give them that space to really feel for their business, feel for them as a person. And also, I think to realize that, I like the point you said, it depends on the timing. It also could be that he was absolutely fine, he or she was absolutely fine before they set the meeting, and that moment there would have been something which happened which kind of, changed their the feeling, and probably they react in a different way. So very important to take a step back when you meet the person with an agenda that let me understand my client, and connecting with them itself means that you're establishing trust, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the mindset. Yeah, go ahead.
And trust also is built in a different ways.
Yes.
A good, perhaps the extreme example is when somebody hears you say, hey, look what you're looking for. I understand what you're looking for, and we can deliver it, but perhaps we are not the best people who can deliver this to you. Let me introduce you to somebody else who's more an expert in that area or subdomain, and let's see how they can help us. Or just letting your client know that because it's not your expertise, you want to bring a subject matter expert to help you on that team. Now your customer or your client starts thinking, oh, okay, so this person will tell me the truth, will tell me if, will recommend somebody else. They're not here just to check the box, to get a PO, to get payment, and they don't care about the project execution. There's something more genuine about it. Something along those lines. Behaving in that way definitely helps you establish that credibility. You are going to be the first person they call next time they have a question, or next time they have a need, something they're not comfortable with, they need addressed. Simply because you were able to gain their trust. You just demonstrated in the strongest form that you're not out there for yourself. You're out there also looking for their best interest. And if they can't love you for that, I don't know what they're going to love you for.
Right. So I think also that point which you mentioned, that it builds over a period of time. It's not that you meet a person and he or she can trust. If you look at our own selves, when you meet someone, we always have this perception about, the trust doesn't come. It's a blank space. Maybe you don't distrust, but you don't trust as well. So So I think,
the interesting thing about trust is it also can be depleted.
Yes,
quickly. It's just like your bank account, very quickly sometimes.
Yes.
And that's why I say to people, it's very important that you deliver on what you've promised. And of course, then, it's very important not to overpromise, simply because of this fact that trust is dynamic. So in other words, you and I have a few inner encounters, and I build my trust with you over the few encounters that we have. But if I promise you that I'm going to send you something, an email, perhaps a proposal, or do something, and I don't deliver on it, over time, that's going to eat away from the credibility that I've built with you. And now I have to recover.
Rebuild it. Yeah.
It's just like a bank account. You make deposits, but if you go for one big purchase, that account is back down to maybe sometimes, below zero. And that happens. We've all heard of customers who got upset to the point where they refuse to give the salesperson an appointment or see them a second time or a third time, so on and so forth. That means the credibility just went below zero. They spent all the credibility they had developed with that customer, with that person.
Yeah, and so it is important to really check whether you're increasing your credibility at every meeting. So you can't, like you said, like you could have had a great relationship and they trust you completely, and one instance can completely drop it.
Yeah.
So don't be complacent of the fact that, oh yeah, this person knows me, trusts me, and I can be, whatever I do, it's not going to tarnish. But you got to be aware of that fact, and that's extremely important.
Absolutely, very important.
So does that mean that business trust and personal trust are two different things? So is it trust lost about the person or about the organization? Are these two different, are separate things? How does it?
One I think can argue that they are separate. Within the Miller-Hyman philosophy, we argue, as a matter of fact, the opposite. We argue that they're entangled, that one impacts the other, and the other depends on the first. We think of people in organizations, especially when we look at strategic selling with perspective.
Yes.
The heart of building a strategy for your sales opportunity really is looking at the business results and the personal wins every buying influence or decision maker is involved in. So each one of the buying influences is trying to accomplish or help the company or the organization there with a certain business result.
Yes.
Through helping the organization achieve a business result, there you're going to get some personal gain. Right. So perhaps they get promoted, perhaps they get recognized for introducing a solution, maybe coming up with a creative solution, delivering the project on time, and maybe sometimes they avoid a loss.
Yes.
Perhaps demotion or losing their position, or maybe even losing their commission or setting up a program. But whatever that is, this helps us understand that the person in front of us that we're dealing with, this buying influence or decision maker, has business as well as personal interest. And so on a personal level, if they don't feel that we're experts in our field, it's very hard for them to build that trust.
Right.
If on a personal level, we don't understand their feelings and what they want and how this is going to help them grow in their in the organization they're working with, then there's a disconnect. And the more we can connect them, we think is the better. We need to understand as salespeople what are the personal wins that are going to come from the business results that this person is seeking. And therefore, now we start building credibility with them on two different levels. I would imagine it's very hard for me to build business credibility with a lawyer in the United States. Simply because maybe I'm not familiar with enough, legal terms and the legal proceedings that take place in a courtroom in the United States. In the judicial system. However, on a personal level, I can be best friends with an American lawyer. So now we see where the disconnect is. If I want to make more friends on a business level with lawyers in the US, I just need to become an expert in more areas related to the legal system there.
Right.
I hope this helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And when you're talking about it sits in the heart of the entire ecosystem. In our blue sheet, when we talk about strategic selling with perspective, your strategy can be built, can be more effective, and the best action plan can be built if you really understand what is in it for the person. Generally it is taken in a different way, right? What is in it? The person doesn't mean that they are looking for some gain commercially or in the money factor, but then it's so much to do with their own feelings. So I always say that people think logically but decide emotionally. So that decide emotionally is the core, and that's where the trust has to be so strong.
And if you see, it's like the question of who came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yes.
Do I need to should I go for trust first and then understand their personal wins, or do I understand their personal wins and that's going to be my trust? It's a dynamic. They both come together. You build them, but it's very hard for somebody to open up if they don't feel that they trust you.
Yeah.
So the more you make it comfortable for them to trust you, to build that credibility, the more they're going to open up to you and definitely share their, business, the real business reason they're doing this, and also the business, personal reason that personal win they're going to get out of this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So does that also mean that trust is looked differently by our customers from different industries? So that's where my question is coming from: business trust and personal trust. Now that when you're talking about it, it's so interlinked, you can't disconnect both. But when it comes to industry, how do customers look at it as a different thing when it comes to trust?
In terms of talking about the human beings, there are still human beings in front of you. So there are these basic soft communication skills and way of working with people that help some people gain trust faster than others.
Right.
It's a natural talent for some, and for others, it's more of a learned talent. It definitely can be learned. Whenever somebody breaks the clues for you, after a while, then it becomes natural for you that you understand the people in front of you. The more you understand the person in front of you, the easier it will be for you to build a trust with them. So this is on a personal level, because like I said at the beginning, the organizations do not make decisions. It's the people inside the organization that will end up making decisions. On a personal level, they're all the same. I think one varying factor is their personality. So looking at the personality of the person making the decision will impact how they build trust with the people in front of him. So if you have a skeptic, is not like if you have somebody who's a leader, and not if you have a different kind of personas will impact. But this has nothing to do with you. You probably want to pay attention and learn it and see that people build trust in different ways.
Right.
But then you go to the other side, which is the business side. And this is based on the industry that you're in, differs a little bit. So let me just give you a quick example. If you're if you're speaking to somebody in the healthcare example, patient safety may be, top priority.
Right.
But if you're speaking to somebody in, let's say, building in real estate management, so their priorities are different than somebody in healthcare. If you speak to somebody in the finance industry, perhaps making sure that antitrust laws are not violated and that the reputation of the financial institution is not ruined.
Correct.
And so now you, as a person who's trying to gain their trust in this industry, you want to be an expert in your field.
Yeah.
And so if you speak to a banker about the safety, the personal safety of the constituents and the stakeholders who are coming to the branch, they'll probably laugh at you. It's hard for you to get their trust, right? But if you're speaking to a doctor and you're not concerned about safety, for example, in a surgical room, they also will not listen to your advice. They will question everything that you say, and they will you'll notice that they're sitting back or they're cutting the meeting short because they cannot take your opinion as solid in that area and build trust on that, credibility.
Yeah. So preparation also is a part of building trust. As much as you know your customer environment, then you drive that conversation. Like, for example, the banking example which you've given, that if I understand that the financial risk and compliance or data sensitivity, the information is such a sensitive part. If I understand that aspect, risk and compliance, then I talk that language that immediately connects with the customer. So again, so preparation becomes a very important part of building trust. Building trust doesn't mean that they like you or dislike you. Trust is a It's a holistic thing, right?
Absolutely. It's a package. It's a way
a
you,
package.
again, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
Remember we said at the beginning, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
I think what we're saying could be summarized in we're talking about situational trust. So when when you're talking about different industries, when you're talking about different personas of the people that you're meeting with, now we're just getting into situational trust. And the more emotional intelligence that you have as a salesperson, so that you can figure these out really quickly, the easier it will be for you to build trust with people in front of you. Preparation is so important. I can't emphasize it enough. And everybody talks about the little stuff, that the generic stuff. Read about the company, go visit their website, try to understand what problems they may have, or who's in and who's out, what kind of politics may be happening. Are they in the red or in the green on their financial statement? I think this is all now trivial. We're all professionals. We've been in the field for such a long time. One thing that I see a lot of professionals miss in terms of preparation is preparing 2 or 3 questions that they want to get an answer to before they leave a meeting.
Uncovered.
Exactly. Because winging a question in a conversation can work. There are a lot of people that can wing a question, but did you really get what you want out of that meeting? And let's go back to focusing on the customer, having a customer-focused meeting. This is not about you walking away with information that's going to help you close the deal.
Yes.
This is about helping your client uncover needs that they may not have been aware of.
They've not thought about
insights and perspective. Absolutely. So preparing those questions, and I don't say you should write down 2-3 questions and just force them, in that meeting. But you're going to find a couple of questions around those 2-3 questions or areas of interest that I think will help you drive value to your customer, help them become aware. Because today's business world is busy, just like, it's like the huge internet. Everybody has access to information. Everybody has a lot of responsibilities. Companies are getting more complex. So the people inside these organizations are getting busier and busier. And what they need is not somebody to tell them about a product. They need somebody to tell them more about, what are they not seeing? What are others doing that we're not doing? Are there opportunities out there in the market that we can be capitalizing on, but we're not seeing it? And as a salesperson, can you help me capitalize on those opportunities? This is what's going to help you gain the trust of the person you're meeting with. In anything. And even in family situations, I think it's somewhat similar.
And I think to your point, it's about not telling them what's keeping them up at night, but also sharing they are looking for to know what is keeping my competitor up at night, what is keeping my customer up at night. Give me that information. I think that's typically what clients are expecting.
I think I've heard one salesperson in particular put it eloquently. He said, CEOs are tired of people asking them, what's keeping you up at night? They said, you should know by now, by the time you walk into this meeting, you should know what's keeping me up at night. But what the CEOs want people to tell them today, they're more interested to listening or hearing about what should be keeping them up at night.
I like that.
This is where they need the advice. This is where they need that insight. What am I not seeing? What are my blind spots, so to speak, in some areas? And lower level middle level managers and tier 2 executives is the same way.
That's I like that statement. What should keep me up at night? I think that's a very important point for everybody to, I think. So coming to the virtual world which we are in today, and I'm sure, it's a hybrid world, if I would like to, and everybody accepts that as much as you dislike it, this is here. But of course, it is not 100% virtual. There is a hybrid model which is actually working too, because people want to meet people. But the reality is, like you and me talking through a screen. Had I got a chance to meet you and have a conversation, we would have been able to do that much. So, how do I create that trust? Because it's everybody's so tired of talking to people across the screen. Is there any different formula, or the fundamentals again remain the same?
I don't know, with all the variety of all the different industries, different personas, setups, financial problems, time difference, some time zone differences, and all of that, so many factors. I think it's hard for somebody to come up with formulas, but we can come up with some perhaps best practices or do's and don't do's list. One very simple factor I find, very, very simple, very trivial, I think, is turning your camera on.
Simple, but so important.
Very important. It's very hard for people to connect with this, black hole voice. It is. It really is very hard to connect with a voice coming from a black hole kind of thing. I say we're social animals, social beasts. We want to read, whether we like it or not, we all analyze and we read face gesture, facial expressions, gestures, and so on and so forth. We read emotions through body movements. It's very important. I think it's at least on the soft skills side of it. It helps. I would also say, look, because especially if your clients are very busy, it's very important to be on time, to be prepared. Don't try to solve your technical problems during meetings, right? So your camera, your microphone, the little stuff, do a test run before, especially when you start doing this. Once you get into more meetings, perhaps you have your own setup and things are working well. I would say also, it's more important that you prepare an agenda for the meeting. Simply because it's online and getting somebody's attention is going to be harder, especially if they're busy with other appointments. I think what's happening is that people are replacing travel with some more meeting time online. But you and I know, and the people listening to this also know that the more meetings you have, the more work you have to do afterwards. And so, just because they use the time to meet doesn't mean that, the rest of the time is freed up. Being organized, just being organized and proposing an agenda demonstrates that you're taking them seriously, that you're a professional, that you're not wasting their time. There is a purpose for this meeting. And my proposal is not only send a very short agenda of what you expect to get out of the meeting or to discuss in the meeting.
Prior to the call.
Prior to the call. Absolutely. Give them a chance. Don't ask somebody for a meeting in a half hour. You don't need an agenda. I think there's something must have come up and you agree on it. But leave room for them to express their opinion on the agenda. Do they agree with that agenda? Do they like it? Is there something more important that has come up? So the more room you leave for them in the way you write your propose your agenda, and see, I keep emphasizing the word propose, and not dictate your agenda or tell them what the agenda is. Sends the message. You want to propose an agenda and make sure that you keep in mind you're dealing with somebody, you're trying to help them. So if they need help in a different way, let me listen to what you need help with. Tell me what else you'd like to talk about. And also, of course, it's easier now for people to send invitations. So a meeting where you and I are meeting is very easy to send invitation to 5 other people, and it all of a sudden turns into a team meeting. Right? And now you want to gain trust on 2 levels. I say it gets a little bit complicated here. The person that I invited initially, I want to gain their trust. One of the important things for them is they want to make sure that the rest of the team doesn't feel that this is a waste of time. Right? And whoever comes onto the meeting as additionally invited now wants to make sure that their time is well used.
Utilized. Yeah.
And we said when you go into a meeting, the mindset is, how can I help this person in front of me, right? Or I'm meeting with. I think when you're having an online meeting, perhaps you change the question just ever so slightly, and you think, what do they expect to get out of this meeting?
Yeah.
Then perhaps if you have a presentation or you're sharing some information with the people online, you recognize that each one of them perhaps wants to get a different piece of information, make sure it's included. One page presentation or a slide presentation or two perhaps can summarize all that information, but have them collected. Then you can sit down and discuss them. I'm not suggesting that as a format, but just as an example.
Keep those things in mind.
Right. Make sure that you try to think of what would they expect to get out of this meeting, and see if you can answer the questions, supply the information, and then also talk about what are the next steps. I think those are some perhaps important do's and don't do's in a meeting.
I think I completely agree with you, and I always say that preempt and assume that you can run into technical issues from the client side. Maybe the camera is not working for them. Maybe they don't want to come on the camera. So preempt that you will come into that situation. And if that happens, again, this goes back to preparation, right? And if that happens, what would you do to keep the person engaged so they feel that, rather than you saying a lot of things, because it's already a blacked out screen, and then you're constantly having a conversation, you're talking a lot rather than asking questions, you're not engaging the client or engaging the other person. So that also, is something which, don't assume that it's all going to be great. You will run into these situations. You will run into situations when many other people are got into the meeting, are being asked to come into the meeting for whatever reason. Maybe they're pulled in at the last minute, maybe they not need to be involved, but they are being asked to involved. So we don't know what is running in their mind. So keep it very, if you're prepared with all of these situations, then you feel more empowered, you feel more comfortable, and you kind of, the tactics, as we call, during that situation, how do you actually maneuver yourself? And that's also part of, and I mean, let's agree that you can't do it everything perfect, but the attempt is to move towards that perfection so that you're actually building your credibility at every interaction.
Absolutely true.
So one more point.
You mentioned, I'm sorry, but you mentioned something that was interesting. You were talking about the questions. And sometimes I've seen people lose some credibility with the person in front of them when they ask a question.
Okay.
It's either that the question is off, right? Or is self-centered. I mean, the simplest, of course, is when can I get the PO, right?
Right.
It's very obvious, but it's an extreme example. But my suggestion is, if you want your questions and the conversation to add to the credibility you have with the person in front of you, you want to use more open-ended questions without any prejudice, trying to kind of direct the person in front of you in a certain direction. We call them, in the legal world, they call them leading question. You're leading your client, in a certain direction. And then when you ask the question, if you want to build credibility, you want to make it short, brief, and then be quiet after you answer the question. The more complicated the question is, the more philosophical or in-depth or future planning this question is, the more you want to give them time to think before they give you an answer, because most people are not thinking perhaps 2 years down the line. Or what would I do if this problem happens? They've never thought about it, perhaps. So give them 3 to 4 seconds to think about their answer. So silence here is, like we say in large account management, right? When we're talking about LAMP, we say, I'm sorry, when we talk about the green green sheet, this is the conceptual setting. They name it the golden silence. This is the moment. These are the 3-4 seconds of golden silence, because if you hold your horses for 3 seconds, you're going to walk into a mine of gold,
Yeah.
and you're going to find a lot of information that you're looking for. But when the person starts answering, it is when you take notes, whether you're taking mental, even better if you write something down on a piece of paper, and listen all the way to the end, because you asked the question, and give them a chance to give you their complete answer. Just those very simple techniques. Just open the doors, or you turned on more buttons for additional credibility with the person in front of you.
Yeah, I like the golden silence, because it's truly golden silence. And it's the most difficult part for salespeople, because when you ask a question, you want to quickly ask another one. Just hang in there, help you try it out, it's magical, because you really see that you stop for a couple of seconds and you're giving that space. You would get, just like a doctor asks a question, he waits. He or she waits. Yeah.
I was, with this golden silence thing, I was one of those people that found it difficult to implement.
Okay.
Very easy to understand, but very difficult to practice. And I wasn't trying to sometimes I did catch myself guilty of double questioning,
Okay.
But what I caught myself being guilty of more is I wasn't comfortable in those 3 to 4 seconds of silence.
Right.
And my first intuition, incorrectly, was that the person in front of me needs somebody to explain the question to them.
Okay.
So I would rephrase my question. I would interrupt their thoughts to rephrase my question.
Yeah.
I've lost it.
Yeah. You already kind of disturbed the mind, the flow of thoughts, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was easy. Once I learned to ask the question, wait for 3-4 seconds. If I notice that the silence is going on for too long, then I go in with an explanation or rephrasing the question. That helps, but then it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the regular flow. This golden silence technique in conceptual selling was really a winning technique for building trust with people. Now, the higher you go up in the organization, the more meaningful these future questions and plans and risk questions, the more meaningful they are, the more impactful they are on the organization future. And therefore, the person in front of you needs more time to perhaps consider what they are going to say before they give you an answer.
And I think sometimes you also lose trust when you rephrase it, because many people don't like it. A lot of them don't like it, you didn't understand what I meant, is what actually transpires the message back to them. So that is a very dangerous situation to be. So before you rephrase, don't rephrase unless it's required. And if the silence is too long, and if the customer tells that, can you rephrase it for me because I really didn't catch it, then you go ahead and rephrase it. Otherwise, just hang in there. I think I really like that.
I think from a human communication, soft skills type of understanding, we are all not happy with anybody who's not patient with us.
Yeah, don't like to be told.
Right, when the person in front of you feels you're not patient with them, you're not giving them enough space to even think. Ever so slightly, but it starts leaving cracks, perhaps in the trust.
Yeah.
Can I have meaningful conversation with this person or not? That kind of.
Yeah. So this is interesting, Ahmed. So one point which I also wanted to bring forth is about our professionals' behavior on social media also reflects a lot for your customer to trust you, because they form a perception is built, right? So that's again something which many of them kind of maybe miss that. What do you respond on certain messages on social media, certain events on social media? It also reflects about you. So I think that's something which even people should remember, that be careful on what you're, of course, there's freedom of speech is what we all want to have, but then just be careful about the fact how you actually react to certain certain information on social media, that also does add to building trust, right? I mean, I just thought to bring forth that point as well.
Yeah, very, very gray, very spread out area really to be discussing. Though I do agree with you that it's one place that we derive some kind of trust, some kind of credibility through online and social media. I think if you approach social media with a similar mindset of what we talked about at the beginning, which is helping people out there, celebrating their successes, trying to comfort them when they're desperate or when they are at a loss or when something negative happened, unpleasant moments, we're consoling to them. If we take that approach, I think it's easier for us to continue to gain more and more credibility with people. If we want to express our, whether it's religious, political, or professional opinion, and very hard, so or just kind of written in stone, then we just would be mature to recognize that some people are going to like our opinions and some people may not like our opinions. And for those who don't like our opinions, perhaps it would be hard to gain their trust at some point, or maybe even have a discussion with them. So each person will end up deciding how how they present themselves online. But I agree with you. It definitely leaves an impact on the kind of credibility that I build out there.
Absolutely. Great. So this was a great conversation, Ahmed. I would love to have more conversation and keep going on, because there's so much, like sales is such a huge function, right? And trust is such fundamentals of connecting with anybody on this earth is about trust. I love that subject, and I feel it's very important to, I thought it's important for audiences also to hear a perspective about, different views. And thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Any three things which you want to just bring out there and say, guys, remember these three things when you are in your professional?
I just want to perhaps conclude, if it would be okay, with one thought. Whether you build trust with people or not is not the only factor that's going to tell us if you're going to sell them something or not, if you're going to sell something to them or not.
Right.
There have been situations, we've all been there, of organizations buying from a salesperson whom the majority of the buying influences in that organization don't like.
Right.
Or perhaps don't trust. And when you and I go to buy a laptop from one of these stores, or we buy an item of clothing, it does we're whether we trust the salesperson or not, we may end up buying something. Right? If somebody invites me to a birthday party, even though they don't have a lot of credibility with them, my circumstances may dictate that I still take my kids to the birthday party. And so let's just keep that in mind, in balance. But what I'm trying to say here is that the more credibility you build with people, the easier it will be for you to for them to accept or want to buy something from you. But it doesn't stop there. It also makes your delivery and your implementation better with them.
That's right. I think that's
they're not going into remorse. They're not regretting their decision. They're not questioning themselves. They're not hating themselves for buying from you, right? Or from your organization.
Absolutely.
And I think the additional and ultimate benefit of all this building credibility comes in terms of referrals.
Very important point.
Very important. Referrals and repeat business. Just imagine, because your customer trusts you so much, they know you're an expert in your area or a couple of areas related to what they're doing. You will always give them the right advice. You will tell them the way it is, and you will sell them. You will only sell them if it's the right time, the right product, right? And you're fair with pricing. whenever they get into an issue, you're going to be the first person they call.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
That should be the ultimate.
Absolutely. This is even more important than just getting today's sale, because if I get today's sale and I burn my bridges and people hate me, and this is the last sale I make there, what's the point? I mean, great. Right?
Yeah.
I thought if we bring it into perspective, that all we're trying to do is just make the relationship with the people that you work with or easier. If the mindset is always about helping the people in front of me, you'll always be a winner, and that will continue.
I think one of the research papers I've read was about 60% of your business comes out of your repeat from your existing customers, and because of which during COVID, a lot of organizations could sustain or survive because of that. They went back to their customers for having better conversation, helping them out, and because they trusted them, they could do business. So I guess the referral part is definitely a very important part. So thank you so much, Ahmed. And so this was Ahmed with us this week, and more in conversation as we go ahead. So we sign off for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's nice talking to you, Lena. Bye, everybody.
Bye.